This is Frank. Can I help you with Bridge Capital?
Hey Frank, this is Tom Harchie with Integrity Capital. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just reaching out. I'm the CMA here at Integrity Capital, and just wanted to find out about Bridge Capital and what sort of lending you guys do. Is there somebody there that can kind of give me some details on that?
Yeah, there's a few of us, but I kind of head up the division. And what's a CMA? I've never heard that
Oh,
term.
I'm a capital markets analyst, and it's my job to reach out to lenders and just keep our lender database up to date. We're always looking for proactive partners, so we call proactive partners lenders that will, get things done quickly and can have a fast, efficient process that we can work with and send our clients to.
Oh, that's great. Well, yeah, you could definitely talk to me. So happy to answer any questions that you guys have. So yeah.
Great. So at Bridge Capital, that there, it looks like you're in Arizona. Do you just lend in Arizona, or what states do you lend in?
I would say that we are predominantly more the western states,
Mhm.
kind of west of the Mississippi would probably be more of our territory. And so yeah, we lend west of the Mississippi. I would say most of the time we're going to focus on metropolitan areas. You're not going to see us go into sub-market areas, smaller, kind of places that are under, 150,000 people. Just that's not our forte, but we're more focused on, major metropolitan area. I would say, the four food groups is typically what we're focusing on. So it's going to be, office, although that's a little bit, sketchy right now, but, it's got to be a pretty good idea or deal for it. Retail typically has to have an anchor property, um, sort of infill anchor, major, credit tenant, um, or somebody that we can kind of get our arms around. I would say industrial is certainly something we're very hip to for sure. Uh,
Okay.
and, we like multifamily a lot. I would say it's fairly competitive out there, but we definitely have probably a little bit more of an aggressive appetite for that. So, um, you know,
Mhm. And couple questions for you. So on the type of lending that you're doing, now from the name Bridge Capital, it sounds like maybe you guys are primarily doing bridge loans, or are you doing anything long term?
yeah, we do bridge loans, which basically means we're doing short term, kind of turnaround situations is probably the
Mhm.
easiest way to describe that. So somebody's going in and buying a partially vacant office building that they think they can put some money into and lease it up and then eventually take us out. So we're really the bridge uh,
Okay.
to to the longer term, more permanent lenders out there.
Okay. And when you're doing bridge lending like that, for somebody to, fill up an office, are you just doing like the acquisition, or are you doing anything as far as improvements for the building to help them lease that for like
Yeah,
tenant improvements or?
yeah, great question. So we will do the acquisition of the asset. So if it's our minimum is 5 million, so loan amount.
Okay.
So if the building's $7 million, we're going to do a 70% acquisition of that, and then what we want the sponsor to do, who's coming to us, is we want them to be able to give us a budget for all of the tenant improvements that they need to do, any improvements they need to do cosmetically outside. We're not in heavy construction, but we are definitely in lighter renovation. So we want a budget from them. And then we will fund what we call the good news dollars, or the, TIs, as they get a tenant in there that they need. We'll hold back that money, and then we will release funds upon draws requests to do the improvements in those facilities, essentially. And
Okay.
so yeah, so we do the construction component as well, so that they can, once they get the tenant there, we'll release the funds for that.
Okay. So uh, draws for tenant improvements as needed once the tenants are agreeing to lease, but nothing really as far as like a ground up construction or anything like that. Just kind of
Yeah.
improvements. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And from that conversation earlier, we were talking about. So it sounds like you guys like the industrial, retail. Is retail okay for you guys right now?
Retail is, it's iffy. We are, if we like the tenant, if we like the anchor, if it's a growth area. I mean, that's one of the things we look at as we're looking at, like, what's the area like? Is it growing? Is it gentrifying and turning over? Is the tenant have a long-term lease? Is it a tenant that's a household name that we know is doing well? How are they going to get impacted in a COVID type of situation? I mean, we're certainly looking at those types of things. And we also, we're underwriting on the future cash flow. So we're going to see that a debt services in the future at least 1.25 times. I mean, that's really important for us to be able to know, that it, yeah. So
Okay.
those are important things. And remember the max. Well, I'll let you keep asking. So
Yeah. Thanks. So if you're underwriting to a 1.25 cash flow on short-term loans, what sort of terms are you doing, and how quickly do they need to get to that sort of cash flow?
yeah, great question. So we have them do projections, and we just need them to substantiate it. So they need to have some homework done, some projections done, some sources and uses done. And then we're going to lend off those future sort of cash flows, backed into today's dollar. So it typically ends up being around 70 to 75% loan to cost generally.
Mhm.
We are a non-recourse lender. We don't ask for personal signatures. We do carve outs, though, bad boy provisions, as we call
Okay.
them. And so we definitely do that. We essentially can close in about 30 days is typically our time frame.
Mhm.
We are uh, um, basically going to get all of the reports: appraisal, Alta survey, property condition assessment report. Those are the reports that we need to see, phase one, et cetera. And we take a deposit up
Mhm.
front. So once, if we issue terms in the term sheet, we're going to take a 1% good faith deposit, or at the minimum, we take $20,000, which is going to go towards legal fees and all the third-party reports. Typically speaking, we usually are charging an interest rate off of LIBOR. We go off of the 1 month LIBOR plus a spread of around 600 to 800 over LIBOR, depending on the location, the risk, things of that magnitude. And then we will,
Out of curiosity, where would that put your rates right now? I'm not looking at LIBOR, but
probably
kind of.
6.2 to 8.2%. I mean, that's kind of the range.
Okay.
I mean, LIBOR is pretty low. So it's,
Okay.
you know, we are a floating rate lender, so that's not fixed. We are a floating rate lender, so that's not fixed.
Okay.
Just going to float off LIBOR, and we can build in interest payments into the budget, so they don't have to make payments. So we're fine with that. We do need to see that the sponsors have good experience, and they know what they're doing. That's a really, really big deal for us. We don't, can't have rookies come in.
Okay. Somebody with experience. So, and when how long are you lending for? What's the term of the loan?
We will typically do 24 to 60 months. I know that's a wide range, but some projects take probably a little bit longer, but we can go up to 5 years.
Okay. And do you do any sort of amortization on the payments, or will it always be interest only?
It's always interest only for us.
Okay. Okay. And then as far as fees go, you were mentioning, a deposit of minimum of 20,000 or 1% upfront deposit. Is there an origination fee paid at close?
We charge 2 points, and we're negotiable to have that one in, one out, which is 1% on the in and then 1% on the way out when they refinance us. But we're about 2 points is typically what we charge. And then,
Okay.
you got legal, reports, obviously, as I mentioned before. So yeah, those are the,
Okay. So with a 2% origination fee, there would not be an exit fee in that situation?
yeah, if we charge the 2% up front, then there is no exit fee. That's
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
What about prepayment penalties? If
Um, we typically give options, like we could do yield maintenance. In some instances, if you want a lower rate quoted, we can do yield maintenance as a prepay. If you want the higher rate, then we typically just we don't do a prepayment penalty at all.
Okay. Okay. And then you were mentioning that, as far as the closing process on your side, it takes about 30 days. What does that process entail? Is there a committee or underwriters, or I guess what's the steps to get a deal through?
Yeah, great question. So basically, what would start off would be you would call me up. You give me a little bit of a summary of the deal. We just kind of have some high level discussions on the phone, talk through a little bit. If it seems like something that we all kind of go, yeah, this makes some sense. What I would do is I would ask you to put together a summary, sources and uses and projections, color photos, a little resume on the borrower, maybe a personal financial statement. Send that over to me. I would review that. We basically have a pretty simple committee. There's 3 of us in here that make the decisions. And so I would just kind of walk it. We meet usually once a day. I just kind of walk it into both of them, run the deal through when we meet, see if there's some interest. If there is, usually we do a little bit of due diligence up front. So it might take us, 3 or 4 days to kind of get a term sheet out. We'd issue some terms after we answer some questions. It would be a full application. So that'd be usually about 8 pages long.
Okay.
Describe everything in it. You would sign that. You would the client would send that in with a deposit of the 1%, like I mentioned, or 20,000. Once we do that, that engages us fully, and we begin the underwriting process. That typically takes about a week to week and a half. And then we sort of simultaneously are ordering all the third-party reports. So the appraisal, phase 1, Alta survey, PCA, all those reports are getting ordered. And then what happens is, we're already started working towards, loan documents, and working with the attorney pretty early on. So, the attorney's going to draft documents. We're going to have your client draft, sort of engage his or her attorney. because they're going to have to review the documents and get a legal opinion letter. Okay. So, and then they obviously were going to want to review those as well. And so once they do that, typically we're set to go and then ready to close by about day 30, just making sure that everybody's responsive and getting us the stuff they need.
Okay. Okay. So that's the 30-day process. And you're mentioning you have attorneys that draft documents, and uh, you require the client to have a legal opinion letter. It sounds like there can be quite a few attorneys involved in this. Is that something that adds to the fees, or how does that
Yeah,
affect things?
yeah, because we're probably going to spend 15,000 on legal. That can start going higher if the borrower really wants to get in negotiation. If they're wanting to negotiate all the legal documents, then it could get as expensive as they want, I suppose.
Okay. Okay. So you've got a set of you've got attorneys that you work with, but if the borrower, they probably are familiar with the process, but if the borrower has negotiations on his side, it could increase the fees. That makes sense.
That's correct.
Okay. And then as far as you'd mentioned you do interest reserves, is there any sort of, liquidity or cash reserve requirements on the borrower side, and what does that look like?
Um, yeah, I mean the borrower, you mean just like reserves that they need essentially?
Yeah, if they don't, do they need to show that they've got interest reserves? If not, do you force them to take interest reserves on these deals? Or is there ways around that, I guess?
Yeah, I mean we definitely want them to have interest reserve. When you say reserves, are you talking about like we need them to impound reserves, or are you talking about just interest reserves for interest payments?
Yeah, for the interest payments. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely we build into the budget the interest reserves.
Mhm.
So we don't really expect them to be making payments. I mean, I would say this: if there is cash flow in the property, we're definitely going to use that to go towards the payments. But
Okay.
if we need to add reserves on top of that, we can definitely we can definitely do that for sure. So
Okay. But clients aren't going to need to be showing that they have X amount tucked away or anything like that, personally already as their own cash
well,
reserves.
we need to see that they have some liquidity.
Hmm.
I mean, we want to see that they probably have at least 5 to 6 months of payments just in cash. Uh,
Okay.
I mean that's I'm not going to say that that's a deal killer, but typically, I mean, we should see that there's some liquidity there.
Okay.
So I would say that that would be a reasonable thing to request.
Okay. Okay.
So
And I know we talked about kind of looking at you know acquisition deals for getting tenants in there, getting it cash flowing. Do you do anything on the owner occupied side, or is it always going to be investment properties?
yeah, great question. No, it's always investment properties. We don't do anything outside of those kind of. We do self storage as well, and maybe some medical, but typically it's just kind of the major stuff. We don't get into too many special purpose stuff, but it's
Okay.
so I would say yeah, that's kind of our program, and we're fairly quick to turn around and get you guys answers, and give you quick no's and quick yeses, and we've got a good track record and have been around for the last 15 years, and so we know what we like, and we are happy working with brokers and making sure you're getting paid, and that none of that bothers us at all.
Okay. Good. Good. I appreciate to hear that. And um, couple last questions for you.
Sure.
If we do have a client with an investment property that's cash flowing, can they do anything as far as cash out through a bridge loan?
Yeah, they can if there's enough equity in there. We don't have a problem with them, pulling some cash out. But typically on the bridge loan, we're sort of trying to help people to put money back into the property so that they can, get it lifted up to a certain amount. So that's a little bit of a trickier ask, just candidly. But,
Okay.
I mean, certainly we can entertain it if there's quite a bit of, equity in the project, I would say.
Okay. And then if our if our client has credit issues, is that an issue if you're doing these as non-recourse, or is there any sort of credit pulled, and what does that look like?
We're not overly concerned about credit. We do want to see some net worth there. I mean, in a perfect world, it'd be at least equivalent to the loan amount, maybe 1.5 times, but that's not a deal killer. I mean, we expect there's probably some people have had some dings, back in 08, 09, 10, but, I we're not overly concerned about credit. Now, if somebody had some really bad history making payments, obviously that's going to bring up some concerns. But I think all of those things, as long as they're explainable and logical, then I think we're probably reasonable to sort of work with. So.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for the information. I appreciate it. Can I make sure I get your email address, and I can send you an email if we can stay in contact, and you just keep me up to date on rates that you're seeing, or any programs that you're running, and then that way, if we've got clients that have need of bridge financing, definitely send them your way.
Yeah, if you, I actually can put you on our, we send out kind of a deal closings thing that we send out, and just some of the stuff we've been doing. So if you're good with that, I'd be happy to sort of send you, put you on that if you'd like.
Yeah, I would appreciate it. That'd be great.
Yeah. So yeah, why don't you shoot me off an email to um, so to ti@bridgecapital.com.
Okay, great. Yep, I'll send you an email, and I appreciate your time today.
Hey, thanks a lot. It's nice to meet you. So look forward to working with you.
Thanks. Nice to meet you, Frank. Bye.
Right.